Chapter 30. Harry Spyder's Triumphant Return! Throughout history, there have been heroes and there have been villains, but rarely have the two combined to become legends. Legends such as Robin Hood, Bonnie and Clyde, William Braveheart Wallace, and now a new legend was born, the legend that was Harold Spyder. And as he marched across the fields into the gathering darkness, his legend was about to be made known, and people would remember where they were and when they first heard of the adventures of Harold Spyder, for he would give hope and inspiration to all.
Yeah, that sounds good. I should write all that down one day. People would pay a fortune to read that kind of stuff, said Harry Spyder to himself.
A short distance away, on a street bathed in an orange autumnal mist that was conjured up from the glow of the 1970s lampposts, a glove-handed young man clutched a bunch of flowers and rang a crown-shaped doorbell. It was half expected to play God Save the Queen, but it didn't. The door opened and a familiar dog yapped loudly, then wagged its tail as it recognised the caller.
Well, hello, and a good evening to you, young sir, said Mrs. Simpkins to the smartly dressed young man.
And a good evening to you too, Mrs. Simpkins, and flowers for the lady, he replied as he handed the elegant bouquet to Victoria's mother.
Why, thank you, kind sir, she beamed.
Your smile is all the thanks that I need, said the young man. Then Victoria Simpkins appeared, and she just happened to look stunning.
Hello, Howard, she said, with a flirtatious smile.
Well, hello, Victoria. You certainly are your mother's daughter tonight, grinned Howard.
Brown-tongued little tosser, said a voice in the bushes.
Howard Smythe Jones linked arms with Victoria and walked her down the driveway, and as they reached the ornamental gates, they turned and waved to Mrs. Simpkins.
Have a great evening, my lovelies,
smiled Mrs. Simpkins.
Oh, we certainly will,
replied Howard, and he and Victoria turned and headed up the street.
What shall we do tonight, then, my lovely?
asked Howard.
What about that new Italian restaurant?
Good call, Victoria. I've heard that the food is to die for.
I'll give you something to die for, said the voice in the bushes.
Well, that will certainly beat the fish and chips that Yobbo used to buy for you, sniggered Howard, never missing a chance.
Oh, Howard, would you please stop mentioning that person? I've told you before, he was just there to serve a purpose. It almost sounds like you're jealous of the little oik.
So you're not missing your little bit of council estate wrath then, Victoria?
Like I'm missing a hole in the head, Howard.
Well, I'll give him a hole in the head if that little hooligan ever shows his face around here again, threatened Howard. And that was it. Harry had had enough, and this was his cue. It was time for the legend to be born. So, like a phantom in the night, he emerged from the bushes. At least, he tried to emerge from the bushes, but due to the lack of protein in his diet, his legs stiffened and locked, and he fell onto the pavement in a heap, right in front of them. Howard stood over him. He was surprised to see Harry Spyder prostrate on the floor before him, but he still managed an insult or two.
Well, 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 what have we here, if it isn't the Yobbo himself? Speak of the devil, and thou shalt surely appear.
Harry ignored Howard, and he raised his head slowly and in dramatic fashion, then climbed stiffly to his feet. He had returned from his self-imposed valiant exile. Her long wait was over, and his moment had arrived. Harry cocked his head to one side and spoke, after a dramatic pause. "Vicky, Vicky, I am here now. I have returned." And he smiled a bold smile. Her ordeal was over, her hero was back, and he had come to claim his fair maiden.
"Oh, so you're back, are you? But what are you doing here?"
asked Victoria. In all the scenarios that Harry had played out in his mind, it had never happened like this. Maybe she was in shock. It was understandable. After all, she hadn't seen him in many weeks. She was bound to be a bit tongue-tied. So he spoke again. "I've come to claim my fair maiden."
"What? You've come to claim your fair maiden? Have you just crawled out of the Middle Ages, you stupid arse?"
gasped Howard, and he laughed heartily. But Harry was undaunted. He was the returning hero, and this was his moment, and nothing was going to spoil it. "I'm back, Vicky. I have returned. I am here."
"Oh, yes, Harry, you are here. I can see you, or should I say, smell you."
But I'm here. I've returned."
"Is there a parrot out here?"
asked Howard.
"Oh, you've returned, have you? So who are you going to beat up this week then, Harold?"
asked Victoria.
"What? What do you mean, who am I going to beat up?" "I heard what you did to that John Butcher chap from the Be Kind to Cows Club. You beat the heck out of him for no good reason. So what do you want me to do, Harold? Do you actually expect me to go back to you and then wait for the next time you attack somebody else for no good reason?" But I had no choice. I had to aim Vicky," stuttered Harry again.
Victoria put her hand to her mouth in dramatic exasperation.
"Oh, so you had to hit him, did you? I get it now. You just couldn't sit him down and talk to him and sort matters out in a civilised manner." "Talk to him? Civilised? Butcher? The Be Kind to Cows Club? Who the bloody hell told you all that?"
Howard quickly stepped in.
Never mind all that. It seems violence is the only answer for this one, Victoria."
And he prodded Harry in the chest.
"I only resort to violence when I have to, and being captain of the rugger team, that is quite often."
And he continued to poke Harry in the chest in a very menacing fashion. Harry knew that he was being goaded, but Howard was a big, strong lad, and he was weak through lack of food, and the last thing he wanted was to fight. So he turned to Victoria again.
Look, it wasn't like that. I had no choice. I had to do it, he said, almost pleading. Oh, you just had to beat the living daylights out of him, did you, Harold? She snapped.
Harry was now flummoxed, and he didn't know what to say. The right words just wouldn't come.
Now, is there anything else I can help you with? As we have actually got somewhere to be.
Harry still couldn't think. He just stood there in disappointed silence. Howard could see that Harry was broken, and he seized his chance.
On your way, you grubby little boy. On your way back down the grubby little hole that you crawled out of, back to your grubby little world, with your grubby little friends and your grubby little family. And he pushed Harry so hard that he fell to the pavement. The altercation had caused curtains to twitch and faces to appear at the windows of the otherwise respectable neighbourhood. Harry was being humiliated, and he tried to climb to his feet to defend himself, but Howard pushed him to the floor again. Stay down, you grubby little man. Stay on the floor like the lowlife that you are.
Tired and worn out, Harry just sat there and stared at their shoes. All he could think of was, what nice shoes they were. So clean and shiny.
Look at the peasant. See how he begs at our feet, Victoria,
continued Howard. Victoria sniggered. She had to admit this was a very amusing sight. But that was it for Harold Spyder. It was time for him to walk away. Only he didn't. They'd pushed him too far. He felt his strength returning, and again he attempted to rise to his feet. Howard tried to stop him, but not this time. Harry was weak, but he still knew a few moves. He grabbed Howard's arm and pulled himself upright, and using Howard's own body weight, he flipped him over his back and onto the pavement in a heap behind him. Harry waited for Howard to get up.
Why, you grubby little...
But that was all Howard said, because the second he was up, Harry swung his right fist, and he was down again, and he knew by the way his fist had connected that Howard was not going to get back up any time soon. And that's what a grubby little man from a council estate can do, you overprivileged toff, scoffed Harry. Victoria ran over to Howard and scowled at Harry.
Look what you've done, you animal.
But it was him who started it.
Just go, Harry, go. I don't want you around here anymore. Can't you see that?
Interrupted Victoria as she cradled Howard's dazed head. The disturbance had now drawn some of the neighbours out of their houses, and a middle-aged lady called out,
"Is that you, Victoria? Are you in trouble? Is that a mugger?"
"Piss off and mind your own business, you nosy old cow," blasted Harry.
"What? Well, I've never been so insulted in all of my life."
"Really? Well, you should get out more then, you old bat." More neighbours appeared. Then a familiar voice rang out.
"Victoria? Who is that? Is that Harold Spyder?"
"It is, Mother," sighed Vicky.
What has the little yob done now? He's physically assaulted Howard, Mother. Well, that does not surprise me at all. I shall now call the police. We don't want escaped fugitives around here, hissed Mrs. Simpkins.
You do that, you old bat. Oh, and while you're at it, go boil your head in a big bucket of coffee, mate, shouted Harry. But it wasn't the best insult in the world, and would have made absolutely no sense to those watching on. Harry was playing right into their hands, and only making himself look foolish. So he paused for a moment to ask himself, what the hell is going on? Why is all this happening to me? How can one person's world take such a catastrophic turn for the worse in such a short space of time? Of course, the answer to that is simple. It's called life, and that's just how it goes. I know this now, but that was my first real disappointment. And not like the one where I didn't get the Action Man with the gripping hands for Christmas, or the birthday when I didn't get a Raleigh chopper, not even a second-hand one. Oh no, because this wasn't just disappointment. This was true heartbreak. And not any old heartbreak. This was my first heartbreak. And we all remember our first heartbreak. It's a rite of passage. And whether we like it or not, we will never be the same again. And just when we think that everything is back to normal, then wham! Something else will come out of nowhere. But the next time, we will be stronger and cope with it better. It's what makes us who we are. But I wasn't yet who I am now. So for the young Harry Spyder, the humiliation continued. Victoria turned to him and delivered her final blow, which she did in a very slow and deliberate way. You can take the boy out of Braithwaite, but you will never take Braithwaite out of the boy. And that was it. Harry knew he'd lost. It was the lowest point of his young life, and he eventually realised that all he could do was turn the other cheek and walk away with as much dignity as he could muster. But looking and smelling like a tramp, that really wasn't that much at all. He fought back the tears and made a vow. I'll show them. I'll show them all. I'm gonna change, and I'm gonna work harder and smarter than anybody. And I'm gonna be rich for sure. Maybe even famous. Yeah, rich and famous. And then I'll come back here in my brand new shiny Rolls Royce and laugh at them all. They'll see. They'll all see. And so he wandered up the road, into the distance, and into his future. Whatever that may be. The final chapter. 5 years later. A gleaming, gold-coloured car sped gracefully through the country lanes of Yorkshire. The sun was so strong that the driver had taken the electric convertible top down and was enjoying the cool breeze that the forward motion created. The year was 1981, and OMD's Enola Gay was blasting out of the car's stereo cassette player. A red light on a set of temporary traffic lights had forced the driver to come to a premature halt. He flicked the air conditioning on and watched unenviously as the workmen dug up the road in the mini heatwave. That nostalgically reminded him of a much longer heatwave, some 5 years previous, and he smiled at the memories. The youngest of the workmen placed down his shovel and took a long, refreshing drink from his Tizer bottle. He placed the bottle back down, smiled at the driver, and admired his dazzlingly beautiful car. The lights then turned to green, and the shiny car whooshed into life and glided into the distance. The young workman picked up his shovel and began to dig again, and he spoke to himself. One day I'll have a car just like that one. When I'm rich and famous, that is. Yeah, they'll see. They'll all see. One day. It was Harry Spyder. Well, what the hell else did you expect? The end. But only for now. To be continued.